the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And where that brought me is directly back here with Jonathan Constantine from the Republican overseas chapters for us to have a discussion on Iran, the vertical gas corridor that Greece is planning, and from that point onwards, wherever this conversation leads us.
Yes, it's great to be back on your podcast, and we're in limbo now, meaning that the world is preparing for the Iran strike, but there are also tons of other problems. The Ukraine front is stagnant. There seems to be no progress on the talks. Also, the Gaza matter is stagnant. Hamas is trying to reassert its authority in the Gaza enclave. China is acting up again. So really, we're in a real constant state of flux. So
the world is changing.
So let's start putting little brackets and little boxes and kind of narrowing it down, because between Greenland, Taiwan, Gaza, Ukraine, possibly Somalia in the near future, we're really in an open can of worms, and basically it's a power struggle between two superpowers, China and the United States. Russia's merely a sideline, in my opinion.
I agree.
So fire away, and let's get down to...
Well, in that case, let's start a little bit with China then. I don't know where to start this from. Take it from any point you want.
Well, China...
Guide us.
Okay, China is a very patient actor, and they plan ahead. I mean, they really plan ahead. They've been infiltrating Western society for the last 20, 30 years. Don't assume that China is a capitalist country. It isn't. It's a communist country. If you've read Mao's handbook, and if you read all their philosophy, the idea is that they use capitalism in the interim period and in order for them to promote communism. And to be precise, the Maoist version of communism, because not all communists agree on... Having said that, they've infiltrated Western society. They've infiltrated all the academia. They've infiltrated political parties. They own and control newspapers, media, social networks, universities. I said about it, but it's very important because owning a university allows you to access future generations and to shape public opinion, not today, but in 20, 30 years. Because the radicalists that are produced in those universities at some point will have children, and they will radicalize those children as well.
What do you think China's end goal is?
World dominance is very simple. They'll stop nothing short of that. The end game is to bring the entire planet under a Maoist communist rule. Having said that, even for them, it's going to be a problem at the end, because they're using some pretty strange bedfellows, and I'm referring to the Muslims. So you see that China has penetrated most Muslim countries. I'm not talking about the obvious cases like Iran, which is totally dependent, subservient to China. The problem is in, let's say, moderate Muslim countries. The Belt and Road Initiative and the Africa Initiative, even, I mean, you see the, I'm not going to talk about that, even in South America, but let's concentrate on Muslim countries. China has been actively participating in infrastructure project in those countries. And the most important is China, through its huge budget surplus, has been investing heavily in those countries, providing loans, which obviously they can never repay. But those loans are leverage in the long run. With those loans, China controls those countries, because if you own the debt, you own the country.
Always. That's a very interesting point. I remember a while ago, random street vendor. I mean, this is basically what you're saying, but it's on a humanitarian level, right? So it's a day-to-day level. And walking in the streets of Athens after a night out, random street vendor came to sell something. He was from an African country. And I was there with a very good patriot French friend of mine, and this other Italian guy as well. And we stopped. We had a political conversation with that vendor, and he was from an African country. I don't remember which one, but he was very adamant on how China is saving Africa by investing in the infrastructure. And our main argument on the other side was that there, eventually down the line, somebody will ask for something in return. And his argument was that no, for years, nobody cared about Africa. And finally, there's a superpower that cares about Africa. And for me, that understanding, the way he interpreted it, was very basic, but it also reflects very much on how Africa thinks about this. They don't see the long-term goal of China. They just see someone willing to invest and build because they've had corrupt politicians for so long, or they weren't able to create proper functioning states by themselves, or they were ultimately torn between radical Islamists and, I don't know, sovereign nations. So it's a very interesting perspective. It's basically what you're saying, but on a day-to-day basis. And I think that all of Africa views China in a positive note, not in a negative note.
Oh, true. Absolutely true. Despite the fact that they're hocked to the head in a debt, despite the fact that most of that money was used to funnel cash to the oligarchs of those countries in places like the Caymans and Barbados and whatever. Now, they think that the so-called Chinese investment is a gift. No, it isn't. For each dollar that it's being given, okay, let's say Chinese give $1 for investment. Okay, half of it goes to the oligarchs, half maybe will stay in the country, but then the interest has to be paid, and that's steep. So for aggregate, let's say a gain of 50 cents, they're going to be paying back $2. So they're definitely getting the short end of the stick. Maybe in the first couple of years, it might work, but then as interest payments cannot be repaid, then the Chinese come in and they say, "Oh, well, we want more." And when they say we want more, they're going to get it for dirt cheap prices, or they're going to lend more money, make more profit, and put those countries in a worse position every time. Now, the Africans can't see that because they're thinking of the short-term profit, getting some cash in their cash-strapped societies.
Lack of education as well. They don't have proper education to understand different.
And the Chinese are great at that because they will educate. They'll open up Confucius Institutes. It's very interesting that we got into that tangent. It's the first step of Chinese influence. That's why the Chinese are smart, and that's why they're successful. They don't stop just at business deals. They enter a country and aim for everything. They aim for the education. They aim for the media. They may aim for the public administration. And slowly, they erode that country, and at some point, they're ready to take over. Now, having said that, in the Muslim mentality and the Chinese mentality in some ways are very close, because entryism, which
It's the same.
is exactly, it's in the Quran. The good Muslim must propagate the Muslim religion. He must go to other countries. He must create cells in order to create the big ummah. Same thing works with the Chinese. The Chinese, you see, the Chinese come to places like Greece. You know, they get a subsidy for that.
I did not know that. No.
Yes, they do get a subsidy. They come to Greece and they find people like the African vendors. Now, look at how this works on a micro scale, too. They find the African vendor. They lend them the cash amount to buy the stuff he sells on the road. They don't actually buy them. They borrow from the Chinese. The Chinese have the products, and they which they bring without taxes, because taking advantage of loopholes in the EU legislation. So they come, they set up shop here, they sell all the trash, literally worthless stuff. I remember I was in Nepal and I was shopping, and the Nepalese are pretty antagonistic with the Chinese. They've had some pretty nasty experiences like that. And he told me a very wise thing. Chinese product, the first day you enjoy, the second day you lament. So basically, they're flooding the market with inferior quality goods. And so what happens is it's all on credit.
Right. So that
it's very interesting how the Chinese credit system works. And this is maybe the problem of a problem for them in the future. Okay, a factory produces junk goods based on credit. They borrow from the bank, which is government owned. They ship over to merchants who are also buying on credit, long-term credit. Okay, these merchants give credit to the local merchants or the street vendors like the one you met on the road, and they start selling. Now, the trickle of money back to that bank and back to the central authority is like a sieve, because maybe the vendor gets arrested, street vendor gets arrested, and his stuff is confiscated, or maybe the local shop that buys from the Chinese discovers that all the products are completely useless. I remember.
So Fugazi, the whole thing is a Fugazi, basically.
Yeah. I remember I had a client, I'm a lawyer, by the way. I had a client who bought a shipment of Chinese motorcycles. They were all scrap. I mean, literally scrap. They'd last for about 1,500 kilometers, and then they just break apart. So he didn't pay the Chinese factory. The Chinese factory didn't pay the bank. Eventually, that's going to collapse. And the only way the Chinese system will work now is by increasing the volume, sending more and more stuff. But they're going to have a problem there. And the same thing happened to Japan 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And Japan never recovered for it, because they were sending really cheap stuff. And the market said, okay, we don't want anything else. You either start making good stuff, quality stuff, but quality stuff costs.
I think it was the CEO of Suzuki, if I'm not mistaken, that wanted to shift the whole Japanese mentality from quantity to quality back in the day. I'm not sure. I don't remember his name. I don't specialize in Asia.
I think 1 out of 10 Japanese companies folded over because of it. Only the very few survived. And Japan is a country. It had trade surpluses with the United States and Europe, almost similar to what China has now. And, to make a low quality good You can do it with low quality skilled workers. To make a high quality good, you cannot make it with cheap labor. So if labor costs go up, then China will lose all the competitive advantage. And countries like India, who are powering up now to fill the gap, are going to take over. Plus, that India is already at a higher level of education and skilled labor than China is currently. So, considering that these are countries similar in population size and labor market, China is in for a big surprise in the next 10, 15 years. That's why they've been gearing up. The difference between China and India is China has invested very heavily in taking over the infrastructure of the countries by investing heavily in education and political activism. I mean, look at America. The political activism is funded by either directly or indirectly by Chinese operated entities, including Qatar, which is a Chinese proxy. I mean, you see Qatar funding universities, not Qatar funding them, it's China funding. But we'll get to the Qatar-China relation a bit later on. Let's take it to China now.
A little bit interesting, and I have a feeling that that's what China tried to do with Greece. I have a feeling that somehow they found themselves finding some form of conflict and sort of pushback in that sense. So, I mean, they took the ports, fine, but
Greece is dominated by China, and you hear a lot about Ambassador Guilfoyle pushing back on Chinese interests and all that. That's a fallacy, and even to describe it, because for one, she's constantly surrounded by Chinese interest persons. Okay,
right,
even in their staff, they're Confucius trained people in their staff. So if you're Confucius, which the United States considers almost as a hostile, it's classified as a hostile or organization to U.S. interests, because what it does is it recruits people from even high school, but mainly from colleges, and indoctrinates them in the Chinese communist mentality. And
I had a high school history teacher that was very similar to that.
Yeah, and he may have been trained in, by the
Columbia.
Yeah, here in Greece, the Confucius Institute was founded in the 60s by a man called Laskaridis, a very big ship owner, who also owns Grand Bretagne. He hosts multiple events, and this man and his entourage control a lot going. And let's talk about Papirius. We heard Ambassador Guilfoyle hint that Piraeus should leave Greek Chinese interests and move to other interests. Okay, what has she done about it? Just talk? She suggested that an alternative port be founded in the LFCs. Well, nobody told her that the straits that lead to that place were too shallow, and they couldn't be dredged, because they're exactly on the point of the famous sea battle of Salamis in the 5th century BC. So, was it something that was a legitimate mistake, or was it just political firework? LFCs cannot host a deep water port. So to have a deep water port, you need a deep water. You can't do it in a marsh, basically. There are two points of entry to that One is 7 meters, the other's 11.8 meters. Can't get big ships in there. And it's also too narrow. Then there are other places, and let's follow that up. There was also a conflicting announcement. That place would be supposed to be a port for LNG terminal. To explain very simple, natural gas is a gas. To be transported, it has to be liquefied. So you have to pressure it and cool it.
Right.
You put it in big ships, usually about 12, 13, 14 meters draft, because you want the seawater to help cool as well. And then you regasify it and pump it into the system. So you need a big port, deep port, but at least 18, 19 meters deep, natural, and easily accessible. The only place currently operating in the Saronic Gulf in Greece is Revithoussa. But that's been, all the slots have been taken up by the Azeris and the Russians for the next 2.5, 3 years. So there's no chance of bringing American LNG that way, which was a big boo-boo, because everybody came in and started signing agreements. And then suddenly they realized that, oh, we have no way to bring that gas here in Greece because there are no terminals working. And oddly enough, the only one terminal that theoretically could operate was not granted a license. We're talking about Ayi Theodori, which is already in operation. Mm-hmm. You could have parked a big LNG tanker offshore, and it could work in about a month. But oddly enough, that didn't work.
Why?
Well, obviously, they don't want this thing to happen because there's a alternate way of bringing LNG through the TANAP Turkish pipeline, which is kind of ready, and you can bypass the whole Greek system, and also they also have the pipelines.
Very beneficial for Greece to do that, though.
I would describe it as a pie in the sky scheme. Maybe for some politicians, it's nice to come out and make grandiose promises that we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But in reality, you don't have the infrastructure to do it. And certainly the persons that I've seen who were, let's say, nominated or pre-selected, well, these guys owe billions. I mean, they're businessmen that have keeled over. They should be in the poorhouse or somewhere else or in prison for all the scams and the debts they've amassed through very devious ways, by the way. And you see all these people jostling for power and to be nominated in these projects. I can think of at least two. One supposedly owns this shipyard we're talking about, and the other one is constructor turned banker. I mean, yeah, these guys are completely broke. Right. I mean, penniless. And they owe huge amounts of money, both to the Greek public administration system. And yet you see them involved in all these projects. So what I'm thinking aloud is that either whoever's suggesting these projects has the certainty these projects will never come to fruition, or they're just plain naive and they're being handled by other people who have in their interest to never see these projects come to fruition.
Are you also referring to the vertical corridor?
Yeah, the vertical corridor. Well, Well, the pattern we're seeing is that we're being joined by Alex, our cat. She's going to come on the table soon. I don't know if the camera can grab a teeny weeny head there, but she always.
That's all right. She agrees.
Yeah, she agrees. She's a Republican cat. I don't know how bad it is. Yeah, I know she was going to do this. Okay, guys, this is Alex. This is our cat. Okay, she regularly does this. I think the vertical card is very problematic, not because of the technical specifications. If you had a decent company or a decent group of companies trying to build this project, and you had governments that are in line and want to see this project, yes, it could happen. But when you see companies that are owned by fraudsters and scam artists, and you see governments that are paying lip service to the project, it's not going to happen. The real reason that all these people are clustering around American officials, it's very simple. They just want the DFC funds so they can put them in their pockets and never be seen again.
And just repeat the game all over
Exactly.
again.
They just want to scam money. You see, this system has been reliant on USAID funds for far too many years. The Greek system has absorbed billions, I would say, dollars. I'm not talking just hundreds of millions. We're well in the billion mark. And
Nice.
this gave oxygen to the corrupt elites in Greece. And I'm not just talking politicians, okay? They're just a minor point. I'm talking businesses. I'm talking about NGOs. I'm talking about big foundations like Niarchos, Bodosakis, Onassis Foundation, which have been siphoning off money like from the USA like drunken sailors. Some of it has been returned to the United States in terms of bribes to politicians,
Right.
or it's being returned to, but also to other NGOs, Democrat-oriented, of course. So now that the USAID funding ceased, all these elites are in limbo because they were used to making tons of money off of United States. So now they've shifted and they brandish the torch of investment and projects and engineering feats and everything. But in reality, they just want to take that money and run. And it's happened over and over and again. And unfortunately, they're American officials that fall for the gambit. They don't see, they see the bait, but they don't see the trap.
Well, my experience with American people in general is that I've worked with many people from across the world, and the Americans were always my favorite. But one of the key factors is, yes, they understand corruption, but they cannot possibly fathom the intricacies of said corruption and how it's going to play out.
And they don't understand how bad it is.
Yeah.
And the problem is that, I mean, take an example. All the grants and all the, where did all the grants go to in Greece? The agricultural grants. They didn't go to the farmers. Yeah. They went to people that were embedded in the system. The same thing is going to happen. I asked with these investment budgets from a DFC. I was at the conference in November. I asked a D official, have you done a background character check on this person who's asking for 125 million? He said, don't, boy, listen, but I don't, listen, you're going to get pie in your face, and I'm going to be the one who's going to accuse you of aiding and abetting this person to embezzle money from the United States. You kind of looked at me. I made sure that he realized that guy I told them, if you release those funds, I'm coming after you personally. And that's why though in that case,
That
those
shocked
funds,
them, yeah.
in that case, those funds haven't been dispersed. And I'm putting congressional pressure because I have had it up to here enough of countries embezzling all this money that's supposed to go for either
Something good.
investments, something good for the
Yeah.
people, not something that is going to be transferred to an offshore bank in the Cayman Islands in the name of either the businessman or the politician who's facilitating.
I understand what you're saying, and I kind of hear it. I don't want to reference the job. I worked in expert networks for the past 10 or so years. So we did a lot of projects with consultancies, private equities, et cetera, et cetera. We would connect them with people that knew markets, industries, and help them sort of do what they wanted to do. And I don't want to say this as a political scientist as well. So those are my degrees. Let it aside. I want to say it more as a citizen. I'm looking at Egypt, for example, because I'm half Egyptian as well. And it's also an equally corrupt country. But I know, for example, that the Egyptian army was heavily funded by the US for a very long period of time, if not still. And yes, you do have corruption, but you also had a lot of infrastructure projects being done by the army, which is not the case in Greece. So you have billions that have come and gone through Greece. And really, everything is a shamble. Healthcare is in a shamble. Education is in a shamble. It's one of the worst education systems I've ever seen. Infrastructure, nothing. And then you have some pseudo projects, oil and gas, that they've known for quite some time and never utilized it and don't have any particular plan, hoping for the best. Meanwhile, right next to your doors, you have someone that's very aggressively going to ask for a percentage of the cut. You don't have politicians that are able to handle that aggression. You have quite a strong country that's an ally of yours that you don't know how to handle, Israel, because Greeks don't know how to handle the relationship with Israel. So, I mean, I don't see. You can throw trillions in Greece, but I don't see it being utilized for the development of a country. And my argument is that you have corruption everywhere. You have it in the States, right? You have it in Norway. But there's always something being done despite the percentage of corruption. I knew a Chicago doctor, and he was telling me, you know what? I wish the mafia still ran Chicago. Compared to what it has become now, yes, we had some problems back then, but there were some good things going on. And I feel that part of some good things going on is missing.
Don't bang the table.
Yeah, sorry. Got very passionate.
Yeah, do it, but don't bang the table because it comes out on the microphone. True. You can pump trillions into Greece and the net result is zero. Now, coming back to what we were saying in the beginning, the Chinese are smart. They take over and run the companies themselves with Chinese operators and Chinese, at least middle-level management. They don't let the Greeks run anything because they know that if they let the Greeks run it, all the money will end up in Swiss bank accounts and Cayman Islands or what have you. And we're talking, I've had people in the system admit to me in past times that, yes, we were just fooling them. We just took the money, we ran. And it was big money. And they were never prosecuted because, it was just too big to prosecute. And the political system was scared of the fallout. Because
nothing's too big to prosecute.
It's not that they're scared of the fallout. They were in on it too. I mean,
that I believe.
So the whole political system will cover for these businessmen because they're all in on it. Now, the question is how stupid can we Americans be? I mean, literally dumb, rock solid, stupid, and not understand that this entire system is a pie in the sky project aimed just to rob America again of funds. And
You think it's because they're gullible as a nation? I mean, Americans are
yeah,
way.
we are. Yeah, we are gullible. We are gullible, but not all of us are gullible.
I'm saying this with a lot of love. Like,
obviously, some of us, not obviously us sitting here talking about it, some Americans are in on it. They're on the take. For instance, in this case that we were discussing before, there was a company called Delphos that was the project manager for the investment. Of course, Delphos is very interested because it's Turkish.
Hmm.
And this company happened to have the monopoly on DFC 8 package distribution. So it was very interesting that the DFC, which is an American investment bank, basically owned by the State Department because it was underneath the USAID, they would be funding projects where, wow, that's very interesting, in areas where the Chinese already had a foothold, but not to compete with the Chinese, but basically act as a filler or a complement to Chinese action. Now, this happened under the Biden administration because we have to remind certain or inform certain people in the audience that the State Department has been heavily, and I mean heavily, has been interacting with Chinese assets. There are many State Department officials who are on the take from China. And unfortunately, that's something we haven't been able to rectify. I've sent reports in on specific cases. Nothing happened. These guys should be in Guantanamo Bay serving lifetime sentences. I don't see anything happening. We'll have to remind Secretary Rubio to clean up house in there. And okay, he's got a lot on his hands, I can imagine. But he's got to get rid of the Chinese influence in the State Department. And
I actually think that's more important than anything else he has on this plate.
Well, he knows it. But the problem is that the way the State Department works, because you have to enter by exams, you see, that's where the Chinese have been working for years and years and decades. They've been getting people of their own mentality in the State Department. Right. Not necessarily spies, but they've been trained by them. They think in the Chinese way. So they're not America first, they're America last. And they're interested in all these projects that weaken America. And to pay money from the DFC, even as loans, of course, they're never going to get them back. As loans is not just a waste of money. It's you're giving them the money to the wrong people, and these people are siphoning it up. And at the end of the day, who wins? China.
Do you think training the swamp is that simple? Because I don't see it being simple.
It's not simple. But you need people there who know, and the establishment hates us because they know we know. And because they know we know, they don't want us even close. We're toxic because the level of information we have is so deep on their corruption, so extensive, that we're a mortal threat to them. I mean, there are rings of, because we regularly do research on these topics and send reports, some of which are being there was action on them. So some of them were ignored. But the problem is that there are very few conservative think tanks that actually have quality work. I can think of the Middle Eastern Forum, not many much. Most of the intel, for instance, the State Department, it's getting from hostile organizations like the Atlantic Council. The Atlantic Council is the #1 Democrat think tank. And it trains a whole generation of operatives to think in America last.
I understand what you're saying, but the way I see it and is that this conservative movement, this need to drain the swamp, is having a street fight in a UFC championship, right? So these people have years and years of training, infiltration, skilled assets, yada, 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 yada. And this conservative movement is basically coming in like Rocky Balboa, like fresh, trying to claim a title. And
that's where because they are so very well versed and very educated. I'm talking about our opponents. They managed to use Qatari Chinese money to create a rift in the MAGA movement, which is completely bought and paid for by Chinese. Because when you have an infiltrator knows how to infiltrate.
Yeah.
They know how to do it. And it was very easy for them to enter even the MAGA movement, because the MAGA movement was based on, as you said, Rocky Balboa type of entrance into politics. And it doesn't have the resources and the think tanks behind it at this point to be able to create a uniform policy. And there are many haphazard movements around the globe and around the United States producing political thought, but not at the level, maybe we're at the 1/10 of the level of a previous, our opposing system.
So how are you going to beat Goliath?
With a slingshot. You beat Goliath with a slingshot, because a slingshot, I'm speaking metaphorically. Yeah. You had to know where to hit. He hit right in the forehead.
Does the conservative movement know where to hit?
Some of us do. The question is, when do we manage to connect all the dots with the other we's, the other conservative, and manage to get that's starting to come together, but it's slow. I said on the day after the 5th of November, 2024, when we won the elections, people were calling to congratulate us, GOP, for winning. I said, don't congratulate us. The fight is starting now. And that was completely true. It was easier to win the elections. It's much harder to maintain, to create this information database and a policy database that people can look back to and to say, okay, what we call the talking points. People have to be informed, and you can't win a war unless you have good scouts and you know the war zone. If you enter a war zone, because that's what we're doing here in politics, we enter a war zone unaware of the dangers or the existing conditions in this war zone, we're toast. And that's the problem many times, that we enter, like what happened here in Greece. We entered like a bull in a china shop. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, what's happened? Zero. Nothing. Nada.
Not a damn thing.
Nothing has happened. What has happened is that we've wasted a lot of time, a lot of energy. It's not about that. And we've been rendered completely useless. We haven't utilized the assets that are on ground. We didn't use the intel that was on ground. Instead, we relied on outside information coming from the Atlantic Council. And we're relying on our enemy guiding us through the process. So, yes, having said that, yes, in Greece, we've completely wasted our time. There's either we have to completely reverse our course, or just
take it all down and start from the beginning.
Yeah, take it all down and start from the beginning. But you can't build a building if you don't have a foundation. If your foundation is based on Chinese operatives, okay, There's no way you're going to win. They're undermining you every step of the way. We know who those operatives are. We've said it. Okay, it's a matter of getting the information to the right people. Okay. We're on record for saying everything.
The foundation in Greece has always been wrong. Whether it was the Chinese now or someone else before that, I feel that it's a building that has been set up on wrong foundations altogether.
Well, politically, it's a problem. I mean, here you have a big port, which is owned by China. It's supposed to create the Belt and Road, to continue the Belt and Road initiative. And supposedly, I'm talking supposedly in big capital letters, Greece has decided to go on with the IMEC project. Okay, how's it going to run the IMEC project with the Piraeus? It's going to open up alternate ports? I doubt it. Why doesn't it use? Mrs. Guilfoyle said that she would try and get Piraeus out of the hands of the Chinese. Okay, she has the tools. Why don't she go ahead? There's a way.
What is the way?
Well, that's classified, but because I don't want to tell the Chinese, and obviously we know, but it seems that there's not the political will, because there are voices in Greece that say that listen, having the port to the Chinese is hurting us, and it's hurting them in tax revenue mainly, because this port is a port of entry, and all these Chinese goods flood the Greek markets and the European markets, but they don't pay any taxes. So there's a net loss there. There are other problems too. For instance, nobody in the State Department is wondering why the power authority is jointly owned by China. That's very important too. What about the cultural subversion that's happening in Greece from Chinese interests? Nobody's interested in that. Everybody's talking about stupid pie in the sky schemes to defraud the DFC from the money, and now there are new projects coming in the way. I suppose they're all brokered by the same Turkish company, Delphos. Well, it's not Turkish-owned. Turkish interests, Turkish operatives, and it's been specializing in projects all over, which in regions which are Turkish influence, like the greater East Africa area, and they're used to provide soft power for other entities. Before we go on to Iran, I just want to close this description. It's pretty dim of what's going on in Greece. There's a light of hope. There's, and you mentioned it, Israel. But there's a big distrust of Israel here in Greece. The anti-Israeli, anti-Jew feelings are both in the far right and the far left, and the center, fanned by religious and political fanaticism. So yes, anti-Semitism is very rampant in Greece. I would say maybe even 60-70% are anti-Semites.
Well, most of this country would rather ally with Islam rather than Israel.
Well, it's not Islam because
it's not. I mean, I'm just...
it's a fallacy to assume that if you're a Muslim, you're anti-Jew, and all this anti-Jew hatred in the Muslim world was not there. It started in the 30s with the Muslim Brotherhood, which was the creation of the German Nazi. Well, actually, it was the creation of the British Secret Service, but it switched in the way, and the Nazi Party of Germany took over it. So since then, yes, we've have a rise of anti-Semitism is huge. Anti-Semitism was a European phenomenon in the older centuries, in the Middle Ages. it wasn't in the it wasn't so much in Islam. The Jews were just a small nuisance for them back in the Middle Ages. They're a big problem were the Christian monarchies
Well,
and themselves fighting between themselves.
I agree that Israel is the light at the end of the tunnel, and we need it as an ally, not just Greece, but all of the Mediterranean. I actually see them as the last line of defense against anything corrupt, whichever way you want to take it. Do they have their own problems? Sure, but which country doesn't? How do we fix anti-Semitism in Greece? Good question. What Greece should have done, in my opinion, is maintained that relationship with Israel, but you can't play on two fronts. You either maintain that relationship or you don't. And we saw the prime minister go to Turkey. We saw the Turkish, Erdogan talk about the rights of the Palestinians in Gaza, and blah 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 blah, and our PM taking no side into it. So you can't play on both fronts. You play on both fronts, you're going to lose both of them.
Well, that's an old Byzantine trick, playing both fronts. But to play that game, you have to have a higher level of
understanding,
political.
Yeah.
And these morons in power don't.
Erdogan does it very well.
I'm not talking. I wasn't referring to the morons. Speaking on the Turkey, I'm talking about the Greek diplomats.
Yeah. That's why I said Turkey does it really well.
Yes, well, still they're playing with fire.
Yeah, they are,
and they're a little bit overly ambitious. And we get too. The thing is, if you fly too high, you might get scorched. And the Turkey is now really crossed that limit of getting scorched. And when you want to set up an imperialist nation like that, you better have the firepower to make sure that nobody contests your authority. And Turkey just doesn't have the firepower to do that. I mean, Israel will never let it.
No. And I'm glad, because if it wasn't for Israel, Greece would probably let it. I'm sorry, I'm being politically incorrect here.
No, Greece is not. You're talking in hypothetically. Greece has already capitulated.
Yeah.
I mean, we can see the signs. And that's why, well, actually, I don't want to be interpreted as let's say, the prime minister, the deputy prime minister, or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has capitulated. I think it's the whole Greek society has capitulated.
Yeah, they have.
Nobody, it reminds me a little bit of the end of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire started out as strong, took over the world, and fought its way. But then it started to
open the gates to a bunch of barbarians that ruined the country.
They were interested in pleasure, hedonism, and those can't coexist. You either are well, I'm not necessarily saying a war machine, but you're either a serious nation defending your borders and asserting your power, even projecting your power, or you're a political nobody. Well, to project power, you have to have the will of the people to do that. Well, I don't think in Greece there is the will. I think the Greek society at this point is only interested in hedonism, getting grants. Okay, the Greek society is being devastated by the economic, the last 20 years of economic downfall. And they've become very timid, and they're not willing to assert any power or project any strength.
One small comment on that, and then we can jump on Iran. Yes, but the main point is not to turn into a hedonistic society. You've had these experiences. You've lived poverty. So the main goal there should have been for you to rebuild the nation when you had the opportunity. Once you go into the next cycle of crisis, you won't have the same opportunities you currently had.
Yes, true. But the thing is, politicians agree to do that, you have to think 5, 10, 20 years ahead. Greek politicians only think in terms of election cycles. They're only interested in 1, 2, 3 years maximum. So they'd rather hand out a grant or a small sum of money to the voters.
Get 41% and call it a day.
Yeah, exactly. They're not interested in what they're going to give to future generations. Greece already is shrinking. It's shrinking in terms of population, shrinking in terms of power, and it's definitely shrinking in terms of economic growth. I mean, 20 years ago, Greece even had banks within Turkey, in the Balkans, that dominated the telecommunications center companies in the Balkans. Now it's a nobody. It's a beggar begging for handouts, and that's even the worst thing. I think American politicians are sick and tired of hearing Greek politicians come and beg, either for cash or for political power or for guarantees that Turkey won't attack them. And I'm going to be quite blunt. If you want to make sure that Turkey doesn't attack you, ship up, accept the 3.1, make agreement that President Trump proposed in 2020, and you flatly refused. I lived that refusal. It was summary and prompt. No way, we're not going to do that. Finished. But now they're begging, and
Well, back then you had the prospect of Biden, the system maintaining itself. Now you see a change in the system.
Yeah, but still they made an agreement with Israel. It's pussyfooting. I mean, it's almost nothing. You want to make sure that you're not attacked. Okay, go find your potential allies in the region, Cyprus and Turkey, and Israel, excuse me, definitely one of them.
Egypt could have been one too if they played their cards well.
Egypt could be. I've said it publicly, even since 2019 when we first suggested this. We had a conference on 11th of November when we proposed the precursor of the IMEC, which later on, to our great satisfaction, we saw become a real project. And do a military alliance. I'm talking military alliance. I'm talking about and see how things are going to change. But they're not. It's not just that they're on the take. That's simplifying it too much. I think the chain works this way. Okay, I want to project power. Let's say, act like Mr. Vendias has been recently acting, because this is only recent. Some time ago, he was completely the opposite. But let's say you want to act like that. Okay, do you have a country ready to back you? You want to project power? Okay, go to Somaliland. Send troops to Somaliland and recognize them first. Send businesses. No, they don't have the back.
Or a PPP, a public-private partnership, and invest there.
They don't have the guts to do that. They're too scared of the European community chastising them.
What European community? The European community in itself is...
It's a farce.
It is.
It's a farce.
I'm trying to think of something polite to say.
Yeah, okay, it's a farce. I mean, look at Hungary, how they're trying to stifle Hungary. Hungary just gave them the middle finger, and that was it. And there's no common policy. They're only bureaucrats in Brussels destroying economies. You know, I was watching a Very interesting documentary how the train deregulation system worked. Well, let's say worked. It works. Actually, doesn't work here in Europe, and how partially it was responsible for the destruction at Tempi.
Oh.
Okay, it separated the operators of the train lines from the operators of the railway system, which meant that you could continue to have underfunded railway networks, lines, signaling, and you could have competing companies in the for tickets and cargo. But the thing is, with this system, you never the companies are independent. Okay, big question is, before that, like the Japanese system, which is completely unified, and it also works in real estate, but I'm not going to get into that now. You get the ticket sales and the revenue from that, and then from there you fund the infrastructure. The people, the signalmen, the people that switch the lines, that make sure that the trains are right in the same direction, they don't head on, have collisions. That was a common system that was funded. Okay. Now you separate the operators of the railway lines. So you have the passenger trains and the commercial trains, different companies operating and competing. Okay, they keep all that money, whatever revenue for themselves. Where does the funding come for the actual infrastructure? Public sector. Well, if your public sector is broke, that gets nothing. So that's why you had the big crash at Tempi. Because exactly of the forced manipulation of economics by the European community. It's just an example.
Right. I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Why do you think it hasn't had the Tembi situation hasn't had that much of an impact politically as it should have?
Oh, it has. It definitely has. It's just dormant. It's not the only, but I don't think people understand how bad it is.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not just corruption there. There you have, it's not just misuse of funds. There you have 57 souls, if it is 57 and not more.
At least 57.
At least 57 souls, kids, that
was the worst thing, that were young in age. You know, the problem is the Tembi, I will say the Tembi massacre, because it was a massacre of young people by the system. It's much deeper, much worse than what it actually seems. Because, okay, you had the problem that of the almost non-existent infrastructure. But when the actual massacre happened, then the government came and covered it up. I mean, literally covered it up. So everybody's thinking, why and what did they cover up? And the trial will be starting in March 25. And even as we speak, the cover-up continues, because the families asked for the remains to be exhumed to run specialized tests, which were only available in countries in Europe and the United States. And the government refused to have anything sent outside for testing outside Greece. So the cover-up is there.
And instead they're going to test for alcohol and drugs. And my theory on that is that their argument is going to be that there's a lot of people that saved themselves during this massacre, the situation. But these, I feel terrible for saying this, but I really believe that this is going to be the government's line of defense. That the souls that didn't make it because they were intoxicated or under the influence. And seeing the way the government has played this out, I firmly believe that is going to be their main line of defense.
Well, we'll see. The trial will begin on or about the 25th. Obviously, there'll be a lot of procedural. But the thing is, everybody in Greece, because he asked me at the level, to come back to your original question, yes, people No, but this is a massive. Nobody believes that the government is on the level. Even members of the ruling, I mean, except for the people actually involved in this massacre, everybody, even the voters of the ND party, are certain that there's a cover-up. That's just some people that just don't care.
Yes, but they still voted him first. For example, like the minister that was responsible for that, he got first votes in Ceres. So there's
Well, that's the way the Greek political system works. Well, to wrap it up on the matter of Tempi, it was a massacre. Everybody knows that the government is trying to cover up something. There are many theories as to what they're trying to cover up, but unless Greek people get to the root of this problem, and the judicial system isn't helping at all.
No, it isn't.
And they're going to pay the price for it, because if you don't have a strong judiciary, an independent judiciary, you're never going to be able to rectify the problems of this country.
These powers need to be separated. They're not separated in Greece.
No, the reason is that the government appoints the heads of the judiciary, but it's not just that. I'm not going to get into this. We could do a whole podcast on the judiciary system. Yes, because it's my specialty, since I have been involved in some of the most important economic criminal cases in Greece with. Let me put it this way: I specialize in rooting out the big corruption cases. That's why I've been able to be very knowledgeable on what we said earlier. Unless it's going to be an open sore for the Greek society. But Greek society has lots of open sores, and all the sores are government related, because it's a system of oligarchs that benefit from the government grants, but people are not really vocal about their opposition for this, because many of the people are dependent on grants for the government. So if you don't leave this grant-based system, you'll never be able to move on ahead. But let's have a focus on the calendar, and let's get into the Iran thing.
Let's put a pause into that, and let's go. Iran strikes.
Yes, the Gerald Ford is not yet in position. We needed definitely 2 carrier, and I don't even know, maybe more support from local bases, not in the region, because they're quite vulnerable to missile attacks, but the longer range bases which are available in Sudebey, obviously, but also in other areas in the Balkans and Kosovo, the big base, but also Austria and Germany and
Are they all
Diego Garcia, obviously.
Are they all willing to play ball and do
Well,
this?
these are American bases, so it's not a matter of the governments. Starmer recently said that he would not allow bases in Britain to be used, but it's really not up for him to decide, because there will be no strike originating from those bases, but you can't stop refueling or logistical support going from one base to the other. Having said that, Cyprus is very important, because it's like a big aircraft carrier. It's pretty much invulnerable from attacks from conventional means, except for missiles. But then you have the problem that there is a Islamic contingent in northern Cyprus, because at the end of the day, we don't know with whom Turkey will side. Usually, historically, Turkey always aligns with Turkey and never anybody else. But they've pretty much cornered themselves now to being subservient to the Chinese-Iran axis. And I'm talking China and Iran because those two are really bound together. They're bound economically, they're bound politically, and they're bound militarily. That's why we see massive amounts of hardware being shipped from China to Tehran, and that's mainly after the 12-day war in which Israel obliterated all their air defenses and many of their logistical compounds. The problem is that then Israel was not allowed to finish the job. And
why not?
Why not? Okay, Qatar. Qatar and Iran have one thing in common: the Pars oil fields. South Pars, North Pars, and North Cape are three gigantic oil and gas fields which are situated underneath the Persian Gulf, which means they're jointly owned by Qatar and Iran, which means that, let's say there's a 50-50 drilling and possibility of those areas. Now, because Iran is under heavy sanctions and it only sells to China, we're talking natural gas and oil, Qatar has taken the role of distributing Iranian oil to the rest of the world and thus evading sanctions. It portrays this oil and gas theoretically as its own, but it's not. Now, the deal is that 20 to 40%, depending on the field, of that of the gross earnings of the sales go to Qatar itself, which means it funds its. That's why Qatar has risen so suddenly in relation to other sultanates in the Gulf region. Then for another 40% is given to fund terrorism and the. So that's how Iran manages to funnel the money to the Houthis, to the Hezbollah, to Somalia, to other entities, to Libya. That's how they've managed to do it. They use that the revenue that supposedly goes to Qatar, and there's 20% which is split between. And this is a bombshell that I'm going to give you. The first part isn't a bombshell. The rest of the 20% goes to the mullahs in offshore accounts. That's understandable. I mean, it's not. It doesn't come as a surprise that they own half of London. I mean, they've been buying like crazy. And the
I'd
other
argue
half,
all of London.
and another big portion goes to MI6 for brokering the deal. That was a bombshell.
That is a bombshell.
And the British have been quite open about this. The recent head of MI6 almost admitted it publicly. And this has been going on for the last 15 years. So why is Qatar so interested in Iran not being subject to attack? Well, think about it. If there's a regime change in Iran, the first thing the new regime will say is stop taking our oil.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing, which is even more dangerous for Qatar, they're going to say, we want our money back. That means Qatar goes broke. I mean, literally broke. There's no way that 15 to almost 20 years of oil revenue will be returned to the Iranian government. They just don't have the money.
What are the chances of that happening, though? Because, I mean, I haven't seen that happen often. countries asking for their money back. And even if they have, I haven't seen them get it.
Still, that would create a real debacle in the international scene. And if, by all assumption, the new government is friendly to Israel and to the United States, which would be the best case scenario, then Qatar will be encircled and literally held hostage, economically, militarily, in any sense. So, yes, Qatar has been working heavily with China. We've done our research on it. We've identified all the projects, and there are hundreds of them, joint Qatari-Chinese investments or what have you, all around the world, especially here the Chinese were very smart. They use that money. I mean, look at it this way. Chinese buy oil and gas from Iran, right?
Right.
Some of it they buy direct, some of it they buy indirectly. They managed to set up this power deal which affects all the Indian subcontinent and Africa. And they've been able to manipulate the tensions in the area to do what? Weaken their main opponent. Who is their main opponent? The United States. Israel for them is just a tiny little bit. They tried to infiltrate Israel, but the Israelis got smart. They had the port of Haifa. The Israelis kicked them out. Because we're coming back to what we said in the beginning of the question: would the Greeks be willing to kick the Chinese out? Well, you have to think like Israel to do that, and the Greeks just are not up to that job. And it turns out that things are very static over here. But so that answers the question why Qatar has been actively campaigning and sending tons of money to the United States to influence various lobbyists, via lobbyists, influence our political system not to attack Iran, because they're desperate. The question is, how many people know why Qatar is doing this? Not enough. I'm hoping that people will hear our argument and understand why the Qatari money is being pumped into the U.S. economy. It's not really Qatari money. It's Chino-Qatari money. But based on the wealth of another people, the Persians, who are being exploited in the worst way because they're being robbed of the natural resources which are being used to fund two foreign powers, China and Qatar. And also propagate fundamentalist terrorism in the Middle East, and not only, because these funds go to terrorist cells in United States, and there are many organizations who are being identified as being close to the Muslim Brotherhood. I can think of CAIRN, the Muslim activist organization in the United States, and there are dozens and dozens more that are being funded to subvert the Western culture.
So the political scientist in me wants to ask you, how do you know that the regime that's going to come into Iran is going to be pro-US, pro-Israel? You know what? Anti-Qatar, anti-China Qatar. There have been similar power plays in the past, and some of them have failed. So how do you think the Western interests are going to be safeguarded?
Let's think back on Iran's history, or Persia's history. When the Shah Pahlavi, the father, because the son has absolutely no resemblance to the father, I'm going to get into that later. The father was an alternate version of Nasser.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put it in Egyptian terms, so we're okay. He was a Persian nationalist and strongly anti-Israel. Even despite that, at that time, it was pretty much irrelevant. And at some point, the British decided to get rid of him. So they had already brought Khomeini to London, schooled him, and inserted him in his place. But he outsmarted them, or did he? Because it's strange to notice that which oil companies are working in those fields. British, the British have a very strong presence in Iraq. Britain is a failed empire. Okay, it has no dominions anymore. It's a shadow of its old self. The only thing that's left is British Petroleum. So you have to think of where British Petroleum is active, and it's active in Iraq. It's active in Azerbaijan. It's trying to be active in Kazakhstan. And it's active through proxies in Qatar. It cooperates with Petrobras, with Eni, the Italian firm, and the Iranian national oil
the
company.
State oil company.
Yeah, there are two of them actually. I can't pronounce the names. It's all Persian to me. Anyway, if you follow the dots, you'll see that there is no, let's say, pro-Western alternative at this point. But at least it's not going to be as radical as it's going to be definitely much more toned down. So, when you weigh the pros and the cons of the regime change, it can't get more radical.
Can also get a lot less.
It can get less, but I don't think that if there were a solution, it would be definitely much more middle of the line. Because, okay, for the last 50, 60 years, Iran, it was, I think it was 1970s, in the 70s that Pahlavi was ousted. 70, so we're talking 60 years of radical Islamic indoctrination.
2-3 generations.
So it's going to be. It'll take at least one generation for Iran to normalize, but at least it's not going to be as radicalized because they saw how bad it could get. Having said that, we expect the first strike from Iran. I'm expecting the first strike before we have time to assemble.
Where?
Missile attack.
Which country?
Everybody involved. Wherever. The question is how much, what is the range of the missiles?
You think they're just going to spray and pray and see what happens?
Well, no, actually they can't do that because they have to focus. So
Israel wouldn't be a good choice.
Israel has managed to restock on its anti-ballistic missiles. So
I think it'd be very foolish of them to strike Israel first. If they're going to do anything, I would go for Cyprus, for example. Cyprus
could be. But Cyprus hasn't been already vocal at this point of the, has been pretty quiet. Greece is outside their range. So it'll probably try and be an attempt at the local bases in the Arab countries.
Go on.
Well, the bases now are spread all over the area. They're in Iraq. Well, actually, most of them have been abandoned. That's why you saw we were pulling out, as to not endanger the. There's one in Qatar, which definitely won't be hit. There is in Bahrain, the Emirates, and Oman. I would say the last three are pretty.
I would probably go for Oman too if I was.
Yeah, and because Oman is always a mediator in the region. It always tries to stay away from conflict. And then they might try to actually hit the task force, which is quite difficult. I'm talking about the Abraham Lincoln task force in the Indian Ocean. Well, we'll see, but we are expecting some kind of first strike. we've been preparing for this in terms of counterstrike operations. Then again, it could be a terrorist attack in Europe or
I see that.
in the Americas. They definitely have the organization, the logistics to do it. I mean, look at all the Islamic fundamentalism
There's a big cell in Europe. I fear Europe's future. I mean, the UK is a caliphate basically with BP.
Yeah.
So it's a caliphate operating with BP, and the rest of Europe has been very untouched in terms of security, and I fear of its future because they have huge cells.
Well, there was an attack recently in Athens, the murder of the Dana, I think it was Erhat, the Jewish cinematographer. It was a murder.
You call that a murder?
Yes. And there was advance warning that had been given to Greek authorities by us
Really?
7 days earlier, and it was ignored.
I've known that Athens has been a playing field for Middle Eastern services. So
Yes, it is. And don't forget, with the huge Muslim population in the center of Athens, very easy for them to hide.
are you able to give us a little bit more details about that?
No, I can't. It's all classified, but I'm very disappointed at the Greek authorities for disregarding the intel because we had given them names and pictures of the persons that hit people who were coming to the...
So you actually knew who was coming?
Absolutely.
Wow. That is disappointing.
Yeah. And we gave it directly to the most competent authority in the Greek power chain. It was ignored. Well, we didn't involve the embassy because our embassy, because we have our doubts about who was. It could have been misused.
Right.
But so it was given directly to the Greek authorities, but was ignored. It could have been prevented.
To the Israelis, though?
Yes, they do.
Are they going to retaliate? Yes, they will.
I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna answer on that. But I'm just gonna be very vague about it. It was this was a hit cell coming from the PKK.
Oh wow!
The PKK has been infiltrated by Iranian and the Turkish secret service.
Right.
Don't forget they hold their leader hostage, because don't forget the hit was on the day of Öcalan's arrest.
Mm-hmm.
It was a it was a signal.
Okay, let's move away from that because that's a relatively hot topic now.
Mm-hmm.
Back to Iran. So you think they're gonna either strike a base or do terrorist attacks within Europe? One or multiple?
If I were the Iranian, I'd spill American blood on American soil. And it's easy for them to do.
Well, America is a vast country. They can easily do that anywhere. And
yeah.
The way you guys run the US is, yes, fantastic in some parts, but in some parts, like organizing terrorist cells, it's the
easiest thing. I mean, they have the manpower, they have the equipment, they have the knowledge, and it's easy for them to do something. I'd be much more concerned about that, about a missile attack. A suicide bomber, somebody who's going to wear a vest of explosive, is 1,000th the cost of a ballistic missile.
And New York seems like a prime target now with the current mayor. And
I wouldn't, if I were Iranian again, I wouldn't use New York because that would embarrass Mamdani. I'd use somewhere more conservative because it's easy,
Texas or Florida.
Yeah, Florida could be Iowa. It could be anything. It could be a symbolic target. It could be a mosque. Excuse me. It could be a synagogue, or it could be a church. Very easy.
Because if I was them and I wanted to do something like that, I wouldn't go deep down into the South. I wouldn't hit Texas, for example.
It doesn't have to be. Don't forget the people that are going to be doing this. They're going to consider themselves martyrs. They don't care if they get arrested. Actually, they'd love to die in the act. So a terrorist attack, yes, it's very probable, and there would probably be a symbolic And we have to look at the dates too. Don't forget Ramadan is
Coming up, yeah.
coming up, and there are plenty of martyrs within the radicalized Muslim community in the United States.
I'd love for us to sit down at a separate point in time and discuss about radical Islam altogether.
Yes, because we would like to discuss our reports on the Muslim Brotherhood offshoots in the United States, in Europe, because we've cataloged all the Muslim Brotherhood affiliate organizations one by one in each country. That's what we've done here at the EastMed Strategic Studies Institute, and assess the threat level of each one of them. And it's been published. It's not something. We have one of our doggies here. I don't know. If it's on our camera. We're very
pet friendly.
Yes, pet friendly, and she's not for us. She's not haram. Yeah, we love our dogs.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Sorry, go on.
Okay. I think time has caught up with us today. It's been a very interesting podcast. We have left a lot of questions for
There's a lot of points we need to target again
for the future. We'll do it again soon. I expect the hit to come very soon. As I said, unless we're hit first, which will make things faster. Today is the Sunday, the 22nd of February. I had said since January, I expected it at the end of February.
From all of our discussion today, I sincerely hope that worldwide secret services are well prepared for the world that is coming.
They're not.
Okay.
And they're definitely our secret services are not, because they're still playing the false narrative that Russia's our big problem. Okay, I'm not saying that we're not an antagonistic power with Russia. I'm not saying that they don't have the remnants of their old secret service, but our problem should be our quest now should be focused on our main rival, which is China and its offshoots.
Yeah.
And let's be a little bit smarter and not try to hit too hard. Let's get some of our opponents to start bickering between each other, because the Biden administration has managed to cement the Russia-China alliance, which was a big mistake. And then again, it may have been exactly what the people had planted, the operatives, because what they managed to do is, as I said before, they infiltrated the foreign service and the secret services, and they steered all our efforts to get our two adversaries to join together. That was a big blunder, and it's a lesson in politics. And the biggest lesson is never let people who have no experience and run these specialized affairs. Try to get, when you go to a plumber, you get the best one. You pay what you get for. You go to a lawyer, go to the best one. Don't go to the worst one. You'll never get your job done.
Do you think it's a matter of experience, or do you think it's a matter of intent? Because the way I see it, it's.
Well, you started the show, and I think we can end it this way, that the whole road to hell was paved with the best intentions. But having said that, you want the best people running your country, not idiots. And sometimes we have idiots running our countries. So having said that, it's great having you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. It was great being here. Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll do this soon.
See you people next time.
Ciao, ciao.